60% of what you pay for a typical bag of branded fertilizer does not go to nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium. It goes to packaging design, retail, shelf placement, and a marketing budget that, in several cases documented below, exceeds the total cost of the mineral inputs inside the bag. 5 brands, the same category, radically different stories about where your money actually goes. 2 of them are robbing you blind. 3 deliver real agronomic value backed by transparent chemistry, and in one case, a manufacturing model the industry actively tries to obscure. Starting at number 5 with a brand whose label promises one thing and whose guaranteed analysis delivers something measurably weaker. Number 5, Miracle-Gro sets the stage for a pattern that runs through this entire ranking. Their best-selling all-purpose water-soluble formula retails for between $18 and $22 for a 1 5-pound container, yielding roughly 24 gallons of diluted solution when mixed at the standard label rate. The guaranteed analysis reads 24816. Those 3 numbers are the only legally binding content on the package. The nitrogen fraction is predominantly urea and ammonium sulfate, both commodity inputs that trade on global markets between $200 and $400 per metric ton, depending on the quarter. A 1 5-pound bag contains roughly 0.36 pounds of actual nitrogen. At commodity pricing, the raw nitrogen input in that container costs well under $1. The remaining cost is granulation, solubilization, the iconic blue dye that consumers have been trained to associate with plant health, and the margin structure of a brand operating under Scott's Miracle-Gro Company, a publicly traded holding that reported gross margins above 45% in its most recent consumer segment filings. Scott's Miracle-Gro also owns Ortho and several pest control lines, which means the same corporate infrastructure that prices premium fertilizer also prices the pesticide you reach for when the fertilizer underperforms. The mechanism here is a retail markup stacked on top of a commodity input dressed in a recognizable blue bag. The result, you are not buying a superior nutrient profile. You are buying decades of shelf presence and a color. Miracle-Gro has a pronounced markup, but among mainstream brands, this is only the beginning. Number 4, Osmocote takes the markup game further with a delivery mechanism that commands a significant price premium over comparable controlled release technologies available under private label. A 1-pound container of Osmocote Plus retails for between $12 and $16. A 2-pound container runs $20 to $25. The formula is 15912 with added micronutrients, and the resin-coated granule technology is the central justification for the price. The controlled release mechanism is real. Nutrient release is regulated by soil temperature, and independent agronomic trials have confirmed that resin-coated fertilizers reduce nitrogen leaching compared to soluble products. That part is defensible. What is less defensible is the holding structure. Osmocote is a brand owned by ICL Group, a publicly traded Israeli specialty minerals and fertilizer conglomerate with annual revenues above $7 billion. ICL also owns Peters Professional, a brand sold primarily to commercial growers at significantly lower per-unit costs for chemically comparable formulations. 2 brands, overlapping chemistry, the same parent company, different price points depending on whether the bag is sold at a garden center or a wholesale horticultural supplier. The resin coating technology itself is protected by process patents filed across several decades, but the core mechanism is now replicated by multiple manufacturers in China, South Korea, and the Netherlands at a fraction of the original development cost. ICL's pricing power on Osmocote is maintained not by an unmatched technological moat, but by consumer brand recognition and retail distribution agreements. For the consumer, the premium is paid for the orange granule and the Osmocote name, not for a controlled release advantage unavailable elsewhere. If you think a 45% gross margin is aggressive, wait until the next brand, where the gap between what you pay and what you receive is not measured in marketing budget alone, but in the deliberate suppression of a simpler alternative the same parent company sells to professionals. Number 3, Job's Organics doubles down on a category-specific form of brand premium that targets a consumer willing to pay more for the word organic. A 4-pound bag of Job's Organics all-purpose granular fertilizer retails for between $10 and $14. The guaranteed analysis is 444, a low-concentration formulation typical of organic certified inputs. OMRI listing is real. The feather meal, bone meal, and processed poultry manure base is genuine. But the agronomic density of a 444 product means you need substantially more volume per square foot to deliver the same nitrogen load as a synthetic 24816. On a per unit of nitrogen basis, Job's Organics costs meaningfully more than its guaranteed analysis suggests when you do the arithmetic at the application rate. Job's is a brand owned by Easy Gardener Products, which in turn has operated under private equity ownership structures that have shifted its distribution strategy toward mass retail. The organic certification commands a price premium that is partially justified by input costs. Certified organic raw materials do cost more to source, but the margin between input cost and retail price is amplified by the organic label's perceived value rather than by documented agronomic performance differences. A 30-week university extension trial comparing 444 organic granular products against split applications of a synthetic, the 10th of October 2010, found no statistically significant difference in final biomass for container vegetables when total nitrogen applied was equalized. The differential was in application frequency and cost per unit of available nitrogen, both of which favored the synthetic product on efficiency metrics. Verdict: the organic premium here buys certification, not measurably superior plant outcomes under controlled conditions. Before we continue, you need 3 tests. 3 things you can check at the store or at home before you spend money on fertilizer, regardless of brand. First, read the guaranteed analysis. The 3 numbers on every fertilizer label, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, are legally required and legally binding. Divide the price of the bag by the total pounds of actual NPK it contains, not the bag weight, the nutrient weight. A 444 product in a 4-pound bag contains roughly 0.48 pounds of combined NPK. A 24816 product in a 1.5-pound bag contains roughly 0.72 pounds. Price per pound of actual nutrient is the only honest comparison. Second, search the parent company before you buy. If a brand retailing at a premium and a brand retailing at a fraction of its price both report to the same holding, they very likely share manufacturing infrastructure. The price difference funds marketing allocation and channel strategy, not chemistry. Third, look for third-party certification that specifies what it certifies. OMRI certifies that inputs meet organic standards. It does not certify agronomic performance. NSF, University Cooperative Extension recommendations, and published trial data certify something closer to efficacy. Treat these differently. Every video on this channel applies these same tests. No brand deals, no sponsorships. If that is useful to you, you know where the button is. Number 2, Easy Grow brings transparency to a category that has systematically obscured the gap between input cost and retail price. Easy Grow is a direct-to-consumer fertilizer brand selling liquid concentrate formulas primarily through Amazon and its own site. Their 2-ounce bottle of all-purpose 202020 retails for between $12 and $16 in yields at label dilution rates, approximately 64 gallons of working solution. The guaranteed analysis is straightforward. The ingredient list specifies nitrogen sources and chelated micronutrient forms, and the brand publishes its dilution math openly. No proprietary color additive. No retail shelf placement surcharge. The direct-to-consumer model eliminates one full wholesale layer, which in the fertilizer category typically adds between 22 and 30% to the consumer price before any retail margin is applied. The cost per gallon of working solution at standard application rate runs approximately 20 to 25 cents. The comparable cost using Miracle-Gro at its standard dilution runs between 60 and 80 cents per gallon. The nitrogen source quality is comparable. The micronutrient chelation in Easy Grow's formulation uses EDTA chelation for iron and manganese, which is standard in the industry and appropriate for most soil pH ranges. The brand does not carry the century-long shelf presence of the category leaders, and it does not pretend to. Here, real nutrient density is in honest alignment with price. Number 1, Down to Earth, delivers a level of transparency that stands alone in this ranking. Down to Earth is an Oregon-based manufacturer, privately held, operating since 1977 without a private equity restructuring or a conglomerate acquisition on its record. Their fertilizer line spans organic and conventional formulations, and the brand publishes full ingredient sourcing documentation for its organic line, along with application rate calculators based on soil test data rather than generic label instructions. The Rose and Flower Mix 484, retailing between $9 and $13 for a 5-pound box, uses feather meal, fishbone meal, langbeinite, kelp meal, and basalt for micronutrients, each with a documented sourcing rationale tied to specific nutrient availability windows in soil biology. The company holds a U.S. patent filed in the early 2000s covering a specific mineral and biological amendment ratio designed to maintain soil microbial activity during synthetic adjacent applications. A 12-week independent comparative trial conducted through a Pacific Northwest University extension program found that Down to Earth's 484 formula produced a statistically significant improvement in root biomass for rose cultivars compared against a generic 444 Omari listed competitor when soil biology was measured at the end of the trial period. That specific comparison matters. It is not a claim against synthetics. It is a documented distinction within the organic category where most brands are not separated by any published evidence at all. Down to Earth sells direct and through independent garden centers. It does not hold a national mass retail distribution contract. That decision preserves its margin structure and its ability to price below conglomerate competitors while maintaining certified organic inputs. The price per pound of NPK is not the lowest on this list. The price per documented agronomic outcome is. Across the 5 brands analyzed, one pattern stands out above the rest. Price in this category is almost entirely decoupled from nutrient density and agronomic evidence. What drives retail price is holding company overhead, retail distribution cost, and consumer brand recognition built over decades of marketing spend. The gap between what fertilizer costs to manufacture and what it costs to buy is not a quality signal. It is a map of corporate infrastructure. In a category where the active ingredient is regulated to 3 numbers on a label, the only protection a consumer has is the arithmetic of guaranteed analysis and the discipline to follow the money behind the brand name. In an industry built on green promises, knowing what backs a price is, what protects your plants and your wallet,